Ma'am, we are live now. I request
Okay.
your permission to start the session, ma'am.
Sure, Karthik, you can start.
Thank you, ma'am. Hari Om, everyone. A warm welcome to the 41st session of our lecture series. A lecture series for the first year BMS and fourth year BMS students. The exclusive session will be was taken up by the eminent speakers of the subjects across the country for a period of 29 days. We started from 23rd of June and will be concluding on 21st July, which happens to be today. Before starting the session, let me introduce you to Jignasa. Jignasa is a pan-India platform of Ayush fraternity led by the student community of Bharata and was initiated by ABVP in the year 1998. Its motto is Learn Ayush to Practice Ayush. It involves empowering Ayush students from campus to community, bridging the gap between Ayush students and policymakers as well as administrative authorities, connecting every aspect of Ayush, including students, academicians, practitioners, scientists, industrialists, and hospitals all under one umbrella. Think globally, act locally. In last 2 decades, our efforts were to strengthen the Ayush education system and boost confidence among Ayush students. Jignasa initiated various programs in different parts of the country, from grassroots to international platforms, through discussions, study circles, seminars, workshops, and conferences. Let me list a few initiatives undertaken by Jignasa. Starting with study circles, lecture series on specific topics, free medical camps, social health status survey, hands-on training workshops, conferences to explore and learn unique aspects of Ayurveda, interaction with eminent Vaidyas and academicians, brainstorming session with IS stalwarts, policymakers and key stakeholders of IS system, National Arogya Expo and International Conference, national level seminars, medicinal plant visits, pharmaceutical visits, agitations for the demands of high student community, private internship program for interested students to learn with acharyas, interaction with traditional healers and visits to explore regional flora, online mock tests, social awareness campaigns on various issues, campaigns for the promotion of various concepts of ISIS and for social welfare like Swarna Bindu Prashana Camp, Ashtashatotari Yoga, Group Surya Namaskara, and many more. Free healthcare assistance to people through local governing bodies during natural calamities and accidents were also provided by our organization. In our yesterday's session, which was the testament to all our efforts, more than 1,600 students joined for the live session and asked their queries regarding the subject and examination. And so far, we are proud enough to say that we have got more than 34,000 views on our channel for our lecture series. We hope to reach as many students as possible in the near future too, who can take maximum benefit out of this. Vidyanamanaresya Rupamadikam Prachana Guptam Dhanam. We have seen the inability of a common student to afford huge amounts on commercial study platforms, despite their jignasa, the burning desire to learn. Jignasa is here to give a helping hand, so learn the subject with experts, and all we need is your immense interest to learn. Today, we have Dr. Geetu Arumugam Ma'am, BMS MD Assistant Professor Rachana Charira from ALN Rao Memorial Ayurvedic Medical College, Koppa. Ma'am completed her UG from ALN Rao Memorial Ayurvedic College, Koppa, and PG from Alvas Ayurveda Medical College, Moodbidri, Karnataka. Ma'am has laurels of various academic achievements, which which starts from pursued second rank in Sharira Rachana MD final year 2020 RGHS Bengaluru. Ma'am has conducted the research titled Observational Study on Assessment of Q angle in athletes and submitted the dissertation to fulfill the course requirement for MDIU. Ma'am has various articles published, which starts from a critical review on concept of Bhavarida, comprehensive study on Asti Sankhya Sharira in relation to anatomy paper presentation. Also, ma'am has done various presentation on national seminars, which include oral presentation on the topic Rasayana and Chakshurendriya in conceptual study, oral presentation on the topic review and management of Ashtmari, and so far, ma'am has attended various workshops, which include Alva Sanjeevani in 2018, and has teaching experience of 2 years in the A.L.N. Rao Memorial Ayurvedic Medical College. Ma'am, we are delighted to have you on the session today, and we are honored to have you too. We welcome you to the session, ma'am, and to each and everyone who is watching the session today. We hope you find this helpful. Now, I request, ma'am, to carry the session forward from here. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you for your words. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the organizers of for the team Jitnyasa for conducting such a wonderful sessions on different topics for the benefit of our students. And I would like to thank you for giving this opportunity for presenting this paper in front of our students. So, can I start the session?
Yes, ma'am, by all means.
Okay. So here we can start with the arterial supply. As you learned in the anatomy classes, the cardiovascular system, which include blood, heart, and the blood vessels. So here we cannot complete all the arterial supply of all the organs in a single session. So my plan here is by learning the aorta and its branches. By learning aorta and its branches, we can learn simultaneously with the arterial supply of all the major organs present in your body, because the branches from different subdivisions of the aorta is the one which is supplying different organs in your body. So by revising all the branches of aorta, we can learn the arterial supply of all the organs. So like a revision manner, we can continue with this section. Okay, that is my plan here. So we can start with the first slide. In adults, blood circulates through an estimated 60,000 miles of vessels throughout the body to provide food and oxygen to trillions of living cells in the body. At the same time, it removes the waste products of their metabolism. Okay, if you see the blood circulation in our body can be categorized into three types: pulmonary circulation, systemic circulation, and the portal circulation. So mainly here we are going to discuss regarding the systemic circulation. And what do you mean by this pulmonary circulation? The deoxygenated blood entering the right atrium passes to the right ventricle, which pumps into the pulmonary trunk and pulmonary arteries to the capillaries of the lungs. Then, through the pulmonary vein, it will return to the left atrium. This comprises the pulmonary circulation. So, second one regarding the systemic circulation, oxygenated blood from the left atrium. The oxygenated blood from the left atrium, it will be passing into the left ventricle, which pumps it through the aorta and its branches to the capillaries of rest of the body. Okay, rest of the body. So here you can see a diagram showing the different subdivisions of aorta and the major branches from the aorta. So here you can see the first portion of aorta, this one. This is the ascending aorta which is emerging from the left ventricle. Next it is forming the arch of aorta. After that it is descending at the level of sternal angle and forming the thoracic aorta. When it is reaching, or when it is entering to the aortic hiatus of the diaphragm, then it is becoming the abdominal aorta. So the branches of all the subdivisions of aorta are the arteries supplying the different organs present in your body. So we can give some introduction regarding the aorta. Aorta is the largest artery of the body with a diameter of 2 to 3 centimeter, and its major divisions are ascending aorta, arch of aorta, thoracic and abdominal aorta. As I mentioned in the previous slide, these are the major subdivisions of the aorta. So, the portion of aorta that emerges from the left ventricle posterior to the pulmonary trunk is ascending aorta, okay, which is emerging from the left ventricle. Second one, the ascending aorta arches to the left, forming the arch of aorta, which descends and ends at the level of intervertebral disc between T4 and T3 vertebrae. That is at the level of sternal angle itself. It is becoming the thoracic aorta. See, here it is written as aorta continue to descend, it lies close to the vertebral bodies and it is called as thoracic aorta. When the thoracic aorta reaches the bottom of the thorax and it is passing through the aortic opening of the diaphragm, that is aortic hiatus of the diaphragm, to become the abdominal aorta. Once it is entering the abdomen, it is calling as abdominal aorta. The abdominal aorta descends to the level of fourth lumbar vertebra, L4 level, where it divides into two common iliac arteries which carry the blood to the pelvis and lower leg. This is the major subdivision of the aorta. So, first one is the ascending aorta. It is about 5 centimeter in length and begins at the level of aortic valve and ends at the level of sternal angle, where it becomes the arch of aorta. Here in this diagram, you can see that So this portion which is emerging from the left ventricle, that is considered as the ascending aorta. It is only 5 centimeter in length. So here we can see the branches, two branches arising from uh, the ascending aorta, that is known as right and left coronary artery. In the cardiovascular system, there is one topic, namely heart, anatomy of heart. So if you learn the anatomy of the heart, you can see that the arteries which is supplying to the heart is the nothing but right and left coronary arteries and its branches. Okay, so by learning the branches of right and left coronary artery, the same point we can apply in the arterial supply of heart. So here we can see the branches of right and left coronary artery. So branches are like right conus artery, atrial branches, anterior ventricular branch, posterior interventricular branch. Next, this left coronary artery, it is giving branches like anterior interventricular branch. It is also known as left anterior descending artery, circumflex artery, diagonal artery, conus artery, and the atrial branches. So these are the branches of right and left coronary artery. If you are seeing the blood supply of the heart, we can see that all these are arteries which we mentioned or which we learned under the classification of right and left coronary artery. That is nothing but the arteries which is supplying the heart. We can see here the branches of right coronary artery, that is right conus artery is the one which is supplying the anterior surface of infundibulum of the right ventricle. Atrial branches supplying the atria. Then one of the atrial branch known as nodal artery, SA nodal artery is supplying the SA node. Next, an anterior ventricular branch which is supplying the anterior surface of right ventricle. Marginal branch is the largest one among this anterior ventricular branch. So posterior interventricular branch supplies the posterior part of interventricular septum, AV node, and right and left ventricle. Next, the branches arising from the left coronary artery are the ones supplying the ventricular, interventricular septum and greater part of the left ventricle, part of right ventricle, and left branch of bundle of his. Next one, the circumflex artery is the one supplying left. It is giving one branch like that, left marginal artery, and it is supplying the left ventricle. Diagonal arteries are responsible for the supplying of anterolateral walls of left ventricle. Again, the conus artery is supplying the infundibulum of right ventricle. Atrial branches are supplying the left atrium. So here we learned about the branches of right and left coronary artery, which is a branch from the ascending aorta. So by that, by revising the ascending aorta and its branches, we can learn the arterial supply of the heart also. Just you need to revise is the where it is supplying, in which area it is supplying. Only that much is needed to add it. Okay. So next we can move on to the next section, next subdivision of arch of aorta. So here in this diagram, you can see the arch of aorta here, and from that major three branches are arising. So number one here, this is innominate artery. They have written, no, this one is the brachiocephalic trunk. After that, here is the left common carotid artery. This one is the left subclavian artery. All these three are the main branches of aorta. So what happened to this brachiocephalic artery or brachiocephalic trunk? It is further divided into right common carotid and right subclavian artery. Left common carotid and left subclavian are the direct branches from the arch of aorta. But what happened with the right common carotid and right subclavian artery? These two are the branches arising from the brachiocephalic trunk, not directly from the aorta. So the subdivisions and the different branches will be same as that of left subclavian and left common carotid. Its division, its branching, everything will be same, but both right and left sided it is. So we can move on to the next slide. So first we can see the branches of brachiocephalic trunk. The main branches, right subclavian artery and right common carotid artery. So the right subclavian artery, what happened with the right subclavian artery? It will be giving so many branches, namely the vertebral artery, internal thoracic artery, thyrocervical trunk, costo-cervical trunk, dorsal scapular artery, and the axillary artery. All these are the branches arising from the right subclavian artery. Then right common carotid artery, it will be again branching into internal and external carotid arteries. Okay, so if you see the branches, the internal thoracic artery. It will be supplying the anterior chest wall, the from clavicle to the umbilicus region, and also sternum and breast is supplied by the internal thoracic artery. And next one here, you can see the thyrocervical trunk. If you see the branches of thyrocervical trunk, you can see that inferior thyroid artery. That is the one artery which is supplying the thyroid gland. So the thyroid artery, inferior thyroid artery, which is supplying the thyroid gland, is arising from the thyrocervical trunk. Here it is written thyrocervical trunk, which is a branch of right subclavian artery. And if you see the another artery, superior thyroid artery, which is again supplying the thyroid gland, that one is arising from the external carotid artery. So here we can also cover the arterial supply of thyroid gland. So thyrocervical trunk is giving here thyroid cervical trunk, which is a branch of right subclavian artery. It is giving inferior thyroid artery. Then external carotid artery is giving one branch like superior thyroid artery, that is also supplying the thyroid gland. Next one, the costocervical trunk. Here it is written costocervical trunk. What is the area of supply of this costocervical trunk? It will be supplying the cervical and thoracic vertebrae, and the segment of the spinal cord also supplied by costocervical trunk. Then posterior muscles of the neck and the parietal pleura also getting supply from the costocervical trunk. After that, this dorsal scapular artery, it is supplying the levator scapular, rhomboides major muscles, minor muscle, and the trapezius muscle. So next here we can see the axillary artery. You may get question from the axillary artery because it is an important artery. You may get question, it is for 5 mark or what it may ask axillary artery. So we can discuss in detail regarding the axillary artery and the vertebral artery, because the vertebral artery, internal carotid artery are the main two system of artery which is supplying the brain and the related structure. Here the axillary artery, again it is being an important artery, so we can discuss regarding these three set of arteries, which is the branches of right subclavian artery and right common carotid artery are the branches of brachiocephalic trunk. So first we can discuss regarding the axillary artery. So now we are discussing about the branches of arch of aorta. So first one is brachiocephalic trunk. Under that we are discussing about this vertebral artery, axillary artery, and internal carotid artery. So the axillary artery, it is nothing but the continuation of the right subclavian artery into the axilla. So in dissection classes you may have seen the what happened, the pectoralis minor muscle, it is covering the axillary artery, and it is dividing into three parts. There is the superior part, middle or the posterior part, and the inferior part, or you can also call it as first part, second part, and the third part. So all these three parts are giving different branches. Total 6 branches are there. So first part of the axillary artery is giving superior thoracic artery, branches line superior thoracic artery. Second part of the axillary artery is giving 2 branches, namely thoracoacromial artery and lateral thoracic artery. Third part of the axillary artery is giving 3 branches, namely subscapular artery, anterior circumflex humeral artery, and posterior circumflex humeral artery. If you see the here, you can see the diagram of the artery. See from here, the subclavian artery is passing towards the axillary region, and it is dividing into first part, second part, and third part, and it is giving respective branches: superior thoracic artery, thoracoacromial artery, lateral thoracic artery, subscapular artery, anterior and posterior circumflex humeral artery. So the superior thoracic artery, mainly it is supplying the medial wall of axilla, subclavius muscle, and pectoralis major and minor muscle. The thoracoacromial artery is giving, again it is supplying the pectoral muscles, deltoid, sternoclavicular joint, and the subclavius muscle. Lateral thoracic artery, here lateral thoracic artery, it is the supplying the pectoralis minor, serratus anterior, and also the breast tissue. Subscapular artery, which is supplying deltoid muscle, that latissimus dorsi, long head of triceps, subscapularis, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and serratus anterior. Next one, that's anterior and posterior circumflex humeral artery is responsible for the supply of blood to the head of humerus, shoulder joint, deltoid muscle, and humerus bone. Everything is supplied by the anterior and posterior circumflex humeral artery. So you may get questions regarding the axillary artery for 5 mark and all. So you can prepare a note on the axillary artery in the same manner. And what happened to this axillary artery? Once it is leaving the axilla, then it continues as the brachial artery. Once it is leaving the axilla, later it is when it is coming to the brachium or arm region, it is known as brachial artery. It will be supplying the muscles of the arm, humerus, and the elbow joint. When the brachial artery enter into the your cubital fossa, then it will be terminating as radial and ulnar artery. It will be bifurcating or it will be dividing into radial and ulnar artery. What is the function of this radial artery? Radial artery will be giving the major blood supply, or it is a source of blood supply to the muscle present in the posterior compartment of your forearm. What about the ulnar artery that is responsible for the, or it is the major source of blood supply to the muscles of anterior compartment of the forearm. Okay, again, after leaving the forearm, it will be forming the superficial and deep palmar arches. So the superficial palmar arches, it is superficial palmar arches are formed by the superficial branch of ulnar artery with a contribution from the superficial branch of radial artery forming the superficial palmar arch. Again, it is giving some common palmar digital artery and proper palmar digital branches that will be supplying the palm region. So deep palmar arches here. The second one is deep palmar arches. It will be formed by the deep branch of radial artery with the contribution of deep branch of the ulnar artery. Again, it will be giving branches like palmar metacarpal branches. It will be supplying the muscles, so small muscles of and bones and joints of the palm and inside the finger. So that is the termination of the brachial artery. So the axillary artery, it will be continues with the continues at the level of arm and forming the brachial artery. Once it is reaching the cubital fossa, it will be forming the radial and ulnar artery. Later it will be forming the superficial and deep palmar arch that will be supplying the palm region. So next we can move on to the another branch of subclavian artery, that is the vertebral artery. You may have revised the blood supply of the brain. If you read the blood supply of the brain, you may know that the brain receiving the blood supply from mainly two system of arteries. One is the vertebral system and the one is the carotid system. So we can learn the branches of vertebral artery here itself. Then we can correlate the same points in the arterial supply of the brain. So it is written major branch to the brain from the subclavian artery before it is passing into the axilla. So subclavian artery before entering into the axilla, it is giving a branch known as vertebral artery towards the brain. Right and left vertebral artery joins to form the basilar artery. So here you can see the diagram here. This is vertebral artery on the right side and left side. It is moving towards the brain and it will be joining at the level of basilar groove in the pons, in the ventral aspect of the pons, and forming the basilar artery. Then again, it is here you can see the formation of circle of Willis. Next slide. So here we can see the branches of vertebral artery. Branches of vertebral artery. What are the branches of vertebral artery? You can see here posterior spinal artery, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, we call it as PICA, anterior spinal artery, meningeal branches, and medullary branches. These are the branches of vertebral artery: posterior spinal, posterior inferior cerebellar artery, anterior spinal artery, meningeal branches, and medullary branches. So the posterior spinal artery is the one, the posterior spinal artery is the one which is supplying the gray and white posterior column of the spinal cord. And the posterior inferior cerebellar artery will be supplying the areas like medulla, choroid plexus, and tila corda of the fourth ventricle, and different portions of cerebellum like tonsils, inferior vermis, inferior aspect of the cerebellum are supplied by the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. And what about this anterior spinal artery? It is supplying the anterior portion of spinal cord. Next one is the meningeal artery that will be supplying the dura mater of the posterior cranial fossa. Medullary artery will be supplying the medulla. So here we are learning the branches of vertebral artery. By that we are completing the arterial supply of major portions of the brain also. So next one, the internal carotid artery, which is again a branch of common carotid artery. That is a branch from the brachiocephalic trunk. You see the branches of internal carotid artery, we can see the branches are posterior communicating artery, anterior choroidal artery, anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery, and ophthalmic artery. So all these are the arteries from the carotid system, which is supplying the brain. We can see this will be supplying the eyeball, that is ophthalmic artery is present there. So orbital structures and parts of nose also, then frontal, temporal, and parietal lobes of the cerebrum, pituitary gland, pia mater, all these structures are supplied by all these branches of internal carotid artery. So here, what we learn here in this slides, so we learned about the branches of right subclavian artery and right common carotid artery. So by that we have almost completed the arterial supply of the major portion of the brain and the thyroid gland, the internal carotid arteries, the eight branches of internal carotid artery which is supplying that is carotid system of blood supply which is giving the blood supply to the brain. That is also we covered under the heading of branches of brachiocephalic trunk, which is a branch of arch of aorta, and the subdivision of left subclavian artery, and that will be same as that of right subclavian artery, only the name will be changed. Okay, so this completes the branches from the arch of aorta. Next we can move on to the thoracic aorta. So it is giving two set of branches. We can say it has parietal branches and visceral branches. So parietal branches will be supplying the muscles and the bony structures, everything. So the visceral branches will be supplying the viscera, mainly the pericardium. Here it is written thoracic aorta will be giving the parietal branches, namely posterior intercostal artery, subcostal, and superior phrenic artery. So these arteries will be responsible for the supply of skin and muscle of ribs of thoracic wall, thoracic vertebrae, meninges and spinal cord, and the parietal pleura. And the subcostal arteries and superior splenic artery will be responsible for the supply of the diaphragm, muscles, and skin beneath the 12th rib of abdominal, that is anterolateral wall of the abdomen. Everything is supplied by the this group of arteries. Next, move on to the important aspect of here, that is visceral branches. You can see here the visceral branches: pericardial, mediastinal, bronchial artery, and the esophageal artery. So you have to learn the anatomy of pericardium. So here you can see the pericardial branches of thoracic aorta is the one supplying the pericardium. Posterior surface of the pericardium and all supplied by the pericardial branches arising from the thoracic aorta, which is the third subdivision of aorta. Next one, here it is mediastinal branches. It is supplying the lymph node, areola tissue of the posterior mediastinum. After that, here you can see the bronchial artery. That is again one important artery. So how to learn the anatomy of lungs? In that you need to write regarding blood supply of lungs. So that time you need to write. Some students may make some mistake, like they will write pulmonary artery. It is not the right answer. You need to write regarding the bronchial artery. So from the thoracic aorta, two left bronchial arteries are arising. Two left bronchial artery, that is upper left bronchial artery, lower left bronchial artery, that will be supplying the left lung. So what happened with the right lung? Right lung is supplied by single bronchial artery, which is derived from the upper left bronchial artery. So I can repeat the point. The bronchial artery is supplying the lungs. So the bronchial artery, two left bronchial arteries are arising from the directly arising from the thoracic aorta, upper and lower left bronchial artery. So towards the right side, right lung, it is getting blood supply from the one bronchial artery which is derived from upper left bronchial artery. That means it is not directly derived from the thoracic aorta. So here you can write regarding the arterial supply of the lungs. So it is getting supplied by the two left bronchial artery, that is upper and lower left bronchial artery, which is arising directly from the thoracic aorta. Right lung is supplied by single bronchial artery, which is arised from the upper branch of left bronchial artery. So next one, here it is written, is regarding esophageal artery. Esophageal artery is supplying middle one third of the esophagus, the area of the esophagus which is passing through the thorax. So that is about thoracic aorta. Next we can move on to the abdominal aorta. So here in the abdomen we have to learn regarding the major organs of digestive system, and the kidneys are present over the abdominal region. Then urogenital organs are present in the lower pelvis, and all these organs are receiving the blood supply from the major branches of abdominal aorta. Here it is written celiac artery. So, see, first we can classify the branches of abdominal aorta into visceral and parietal branches. That how we classified in the thoracic aorta. Same manner, here also we can classify into visceral branches and parietal branches. So visceral branches again unpaired and paired branches. So unpaired branches which is arising from the ventral aspect of the aorta are celiac artery, superior mesenteric artery and inferior mesenteric artery. Next one, some paired branches are there in the abdominal aorta, that is suprarenal artery, renal artery and the gonadal artery. So here parietal branches are median sacral artery, inferior phrenic artery and the lumbar artery. That is also classified into paired and unpaired branches. So here you can see, here this is the diaphragm. Below the diaphragm, after passing through the aortic hiatus in the diaphragm, it is known as abdominal aorta. Here you can see the branches like left inferior phrenic artery is present here. From the ventral branches, from the ventral aspect, you can see the celiac trunk is arising, superior mesenteric artery is arising, then testicular or the ovarian artery, we can see that is also arising from the anterior aspect. Here inferior mesenteric artery is present over here, and the one more, the median sacral artery is here. Then common iliac artery, right and left common iliac artery is the terminal branch of abdominal aorta. Again the common iliac artery dividing into external and internal iliac artery. These are the main branches of aorta. So by hearing these names itself, we learned all these arteries in different chapters. Like when we discussed about the stomach, and under that we learned about many branches which is supplying the stomach, that is arising from the celiac artery. So when we discussed about the small intestine and the large intestine, the branches arising from superior mesenteric and inferior mesenteric arteries are responsible for the supply of different parts of the colon and small intestine. Here so you can see the suprarenal artery that will be supplying the suprarenal gland. Renal arteries are responsible for the blood supply to the complete tissue of the kidney, and the gonadal arteries are the ones supplying the gonads, testes or the ovaries, and also nearby structures are also receiving the blood supply from the gonadal arteries. So we can start with the celiac artery first. Iliac artery is a major branch from the abdominal aorta. What are the branches arising from the celiac artery? First one is the left gastric artery. Second one is left gastric artery. After that, we can see the splenic artery, common hepatic artery. These are the major branches of celiac artery. So you can again, once again, you can see the origin of celiac artery. So from the anterior aspect of the abdominal aorta, you can see the origin of celiac artery. After that, it is giving three major branches. Here in this diagram also you can see here. So left gastric artery and common hepatic artery and splenic artery. These three are the main branches of celiac trunk or celiac artery. Okay. So again, the splenic artery is giving branches like the superior pancreatic artery, left gastroepiploic artery, short gastric artery. Then common hepatic artery is dividing into proper hepatic artery, right gastric artery, gastroduodenal artery, and all. So in the next slide, we can see here the superior mesenteric artery. That is the second major branch of aorta, superior mesenteric artery. What are the branches of superior mesenteric artery? Inferior pancreaticoduodenal artery, jejunal and ileal branches, ileocolic artery, right colic artery, and middle colic artery. All these are the branches arising from superior mesenteric artery. Next, we can see the inferior mesenteric artery. That is again ventral branch of aorta. It is giving branches like left colic artery, sigmoid artery, and superior rectal artery. See, if we see the arterial supply of the stomach, arterial supply of the stomach, what are the branches supplying the you have learned regarding the anatomy of stomach and arterial supply. We can revise the arterial supply of the stomach. What happened there? The major arteries supplying the stomach are left gastric artery, right gastric artery, left gastroepiploic artery, right gastroepiploic artery, and short gastric artery. All these are the arteries supplying our stomach. So here we can get back to our previous slides. See, all these are the branches mainly arising from the celiac artery. Left gastric artery is a direct branch from celiac artery, and the left gastroepiploic artery is a sub branch of splenic artery. After that, the short gastric artery is also a branch of splenic artery. Next one, the right gastric artery is also sub branch of common hepatic artery. So all these arteries, what we learned in the celiac artery, branches of celiac trunk are the arteries supplying the stomach. Next, if you see the arteries supplying the duodenum, it is the duodenum. Okay, we know that the stomach is continuous as the duodenum at the level of pylorus. So duodenum, arterial supply of the duodenum, if you see, we can see that superior pancreatico-duodenal artery, inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery, then supraduodenal artery, hepatic artery, branches of hepatic artery. All these are the arteries supplying to the duodenum. Here again we can see all these are the branches from the celiac branches or sub branches from the celiac artery itself. So by learning these branches, we can also cover the arterial supply of those organs. Again, we can coming into the cecum and the small intestine and all. So the cecum is supplied by the anterior and posterior cecal branches. Again, it is a branch of ileocolic artery. Okay, cecum is supplied by the anterior and posterior cecal branches. It is derived from the ileocolic artery. That is a branch of superior mesenteric artery. Okay, again, the appendix is supplied by the appendicular branches of ileocolic artery. And if you see the colon, the different part of colon, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and the sigmoid colon, all these are supplied by nothing but the ileocolic, right colic, middle colic, left colic, sigmoidal artery, and superior rectal artery only. If you see the arterial supply of all these regions of the colon, you can see that these are the arteries which is supplying the colon. Next, if you again see the pancreas, okay, if you see the arterial supply of the pancreas, it is supplied by the branches of splenic artery, superior and inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery. That is again being the branches from the main branches of the main branches of the abdominal aorta itself. So by covering the branches of our abdominal aorta, that is the celiac artery, superior mesenteric and inferior mesenteric, and its branches, we have completed the arterial supply of the major organs present in the body. That is, namely the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, and the spleen. Again, the spleen is supplied by the splenic artery, which is directly derived from the celiac trunk. The liver is supplied by the common hepatic artery. Again, it is dividing into proper hepatic artery. All these will be supplying the liver. Okay, so we are completed the blood supply of almost all the major organs present in the abdomen by learning the branches and sub-branches from the abdominal aorta. Next, we can move on to the suprarenal arteries. Okay, suprarenal artery, renal artery, gonadal artery, that are the paired branches from the abdominal aorta. Okay, so the suprarenal artery, when it is coming to the suprarenal gland, it is supplied by major three arteries: superior suprarenal artery, middle suprarenal artery, and inferior suprarenal artery. Among these, only the middle suprarenal artery is derived directly from the abdominal aorta. Okay, only the middle suprarenal artery is arised from the abdominal aorta. But what happened with this superior suprarenal artery? Superior suprarenal artery is derived from inferior phrenic artery. Then inferior suprarenal artery is arised from the renal artery. Left and right renal artery. So the only middle suprarenal artery is directly originated from the abdominal aorta. The remaining arteries like superior and inferior suprarenal arteries are arised from the inferior and renal artery respectively. Okay, so next one is the renal artery. Renal artery, that is again the direct paired branch from the abdominal aorta, which is supplying the complete region of the kidney. After that, the gonadal artery. Gonadal artery, you will understand what is this gonadal artery. It will be supplying the gonads are the ovaries and testes. It will be supplying the testes and ovaries. So the testicular artery, it will be supplying, also supplying the ureter, epididymis, head, body and tail of the epididymis, parenchyma of the testis, everything is supplied by the testicular artery. Okay, not only to the testis, it is also supplying the ureter, epididymis, head and body, tail region of the epididymis is also receiving the blood supply by the testicular artery. When it is coming to the ovarian artery, it is also supplying the ureter, ampullary end of the uterine tube, ovaries are receiving blood supply by the ovarian artery. So here, by learning the paired branches of abdominal aorta, we have completed the arterial supply of another major organs like suprarenal gland, kidney and the gonads. Next, when we can see the terminal branch of abdominal aorta. Here in this diagram, yeah, in this diagram, we can see that what happened with the termination of the abdominal aorta, it is terminated as dividing into right and left common iliac artery. So these are the terminal branches. Again, what happened to this common iliac artery? It will be dividing into external and internal iliac artery. Okay, external and internal iliac artery. So terminal branches of abdominal aorta, right and left common iliac artery, right and left common iliac artery. So here we can see the right and left common iliac artery. Both the right and left common iliac arteries are divided into internal and external iliac artery. So first we can see the major branches of internal iliac artery. So internal iliac artery, primarily it is dividing, it is forming one anterior and posterior trunk. Later that will be giving some major branches. Like from anterior trunk, it is giving branches like our obturator artery, middle rectal artery, superior vesical artery, uterine artery, and inferior gluteal, inferior vesical artery, internal pudendal arteries. All these are the arteries. Okay. So among that, we can see here. Yeah, we can see here the obturator artery, the middle rectal artery, superior vesical artery. So, if you see the uterine artery is deriving from the internal iliac artery. So, uterine artery, it is majorly supplying the uterus, as we know that. So, it is it is a division from the anterior trunk. Through its divisions, okay, so uterine artery again giving some of the branches, and it is supplies the vagina, uterine tube and the ureter structures within the broad ligament. Okay, so what are the areas which is supplied by the uterine artery? Uterine artery, it is derived from the anterior trunk of internal iliac artery. It is supplying the uterus and also giving some branches to the vaginal area, uterine tube, ureter and structures within the broad ligament. That is also supplied by the uterine artery. Next, here we can see the superior vesical artery and inferior vesical artery. If you see the arterial supply of the urinary bladder, you will understand that superior and inferior vesical arteries are the arteries supplying the urinary bladder. So that also we have completed the superior vesical artery and inferior vesical artery. Next one, here important artery is the internal pudendal artery. So internal pudendal artery, it is giving branches in females. It is giving branches to arterial supply arteries to the bulb of the vestibule in females, and it is giving one deep artery of clitoris and dorsal artery of clitoris. Next, coming to the males, the internal pudendal artery is giving branches like artery of bulb of penis, deep artery of the penis, perforating artery of the penis, and dorsal artery of the penis. So these are the branches which is arising from the internal pudendal artery, which is supplying the external genitalia region of the male and female body. Next, another artery here we have mentioned is middle rectal artery. Next one, middle rectal artery and superior rectal arteries are also there. So when we see the arterial supply of the rectum, superior rectal artery, that is a continuation of the inferior mesenteric artery. Here, the middle rectal artery we have written, that is a branch of the anterior trunk, that is also supplying the rectum. Next, another artery, inferior rectal artery, that is also a branch from the internal pudendal artery, and the median sacral artery, which is a direct branch from the abdominal aorta, is also supplying the rectum. Okay, so by learning the branches from the internal iliac artery, we can cover the arterial supply of the rectum and also the urinary bladder, uterus, and also the genitalia, external genitalia of the female and male body. So these are the terminal branches of abdominal aorta, internal iliac artery and external iliac artery. So from the internal iliac artery, you can see it is giving the superior and inferior vesical artery, which is supplying the urinary bladder. Then uterine artery is present, that is also supplying the it is mainly supplying the uterus and also giving some branches to the vagina, uterine tube, ureter and structure present within the broad ligament. Again, the pudendal artery, internal pudendal artery, which is giving branches to the rectum and also the external genitalia of male and female body. So these are the major branches from the internal iliac artery. So next we can see the external iliac artery. Then the larger terminal branch of common iliac artery is the external iliac artery. So it is giving main blood supply to the lower limb. It continues with the femoral artery in the thigh. And major branches of this external iliac artery is inferior epigastric artery and deep circumflex iliac artery. So how the axillary artery is continuous as the brachial artery, same manner here the external iliac artery is continuous towards the lower limb as the femoral artery. Okay, so the femoral artery, here in this diagram you can see the arterial supply towards the lower limb. Okay, so the femoral artery, once it is reaching after the inguinal ligament, it is reaching to the thigh region, it will become the femoral artery. It is supplying the thigh region. Okay, then the femoral artery, what happened with the femoral artery, it will be continuous downwards after giving some branches like branches at the level of thigh, and later it will be it continues downward, and once it is reaching the popliteal fossa region, that is the posterior aspect of the knee joint, it will be continuous as the popliteal artery. So then the popliteal artery will be dividing into anterior tibial artery and the posterior tibial artery. Here you can see anterior tibial artery and posterior tibial artery. Posterior tibial artery is a direct continuation of the popliteal artery. Later, it will be giving the anterior tibial artery will be giving the dorsalis pedis branch. After that, arcuate arteries, dorsal metatarsal arteries, and the digital arteries. After that, the posterior tibial artery will be giving branches like peroneal arteries, medial and lateral plantar arteries, then plantar metatarsal arteries, and plantar digital arteries. Then all these arteries are responsible for the supply of the entire region of this lower limb. Okay, so by revising the arterial arteries or the branches of all the aorta, different subdivisions of aorta, like this manner we can simultaneously revise the arterial supply of all the organs. So when you are revising the chapter, it will be if you are feeling difficulty to revise all the remember all the arterial supply, so first you can learn regarding the aorta. After that, if you are learning the subdivisions and branches, whenever it is needed, that time you can apply that point. If you are writing regarding the stomach, you can derive it from the celiac trunk. You can think about the celiac trunk and you can copy that branches which is supplying the stomach. So in the same manner, we can learn regarding the arterial supply of different organs. So I hope this session will be useful for the students who are appearing for the university exam. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I think the session, thank you for such an knowledgeful session, ma'am, and engaging session. I think students will be really benefited out of this. We hope so. Uh, and coming further, ma'am, and thanks for agreeing to deliver a lecture on such a short notice, ma'am. We are really glad for that. Um I am not able to express in words, but we are really grateful for you to for agreeing to do a session on such a short time and delivering it, man. We are really grateful. We will be really grateful for that, and we look forward on behalf of my whole team and my organization Jignasa. Our organization Jignasa, we would like to extend our warmest gratitude and thanks to you, ma'am, for delivering a such session and engaging with the students and being on the our journey in our motto to help the students, exam going students. So we started the sessions from 23rd of June, And today is we have come for the last day of our sessions, ma'am. That is 21st July, and this is our last session in the lecture series. So I think students have benefited all throughout through our lecture series, and I would really like to thank you again, ma'am. And we look forward for your cooperation and continuous support in future for all our activities in uplifting the Ayurveda system and for doing good for the Ayurveda students, ma'am.
Sure.
Sure.
Thank you for giving
Thank
this
you for giving
opportunity
this
again.
opportunity again. Thank you, ma'am, and I thank all the viewers who have shown the constant engagement and continuous support throughout this 1 month long journey. And we won't stop here. We will be available for you throughout the exam and throughout your career as an Ayurveda student. So we will be available for you round the clock, 24/7. You can contact us anytime for anything. And ma'am, there's a question coming up in the chat box, ma'am. I will just read that out to you.
Okay.
Ma'am, if a question from Damanis, can we add this iota? Is the question, ma'am.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Better we can add
Better we can add the.
am I audible, Karthik?
Am I audible, Karthik? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, no need to
Yeah, no
correlate
need to
with the iota.
correlate with
Better
the
you can
iota.
write
Better you
with
can
the
write.
Ayurvedic aspect itself, according to my suggestion.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the clarification. And we have our next question. The question is how the question might come and for how many marks.
Yeah, that's what they
Yeah,
may
that's
ask
what
you
they may
regarding
ask
the
you regarding
iota,
the iota,
so complete
so
iota.
complete iota.
Or you can ask regarding the long
Regarding
essay
the long
or
essay or
any subdivision
any
of the iota
subdivision of the
also they may
iota
ask.
also they may ask.
And blood
And
supply of
blood
pump
supply of
section,
pump
blood
section,
supply of
blood supply
brain
of brain
or
or
axillary arteries.
axillary
Any major
artery.
artery
Any
they
major
may ask.
artery they may ask. Thank you, ma'am. I think that's all from the questions we have in the chat box, ma'am. And I would like to thank you again for your patience and the time and for delivering the session, ma'am. Thank you again, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. I request your permission to end the session, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, viewers.